I injected fat underneath her muscle. Yes, underneath her muscle. Watch this video to find out where and why. This video is fairly graphic, so if you're a little squeamish, then you may not want to watch this. When I do fat grafting for lifts or when I do it with breast reduction, I typically place that fat in the subcutaneous tissue in the fat under the breast. Today, I'm going to show you a different location where I also put the fat, and it can help get more upper pole fullness to the breast as well as more cleavage. So here we are, and I'll just kind of get you oriented here. So this is a breast lift that I'm doing. Her breast was down here. We're lifting it up here, and it's going to sit and tuck underneath here, and we're going to bring all this together, and this will be her breast. But I'm going to add some fat into this area here. So this is the natural place where I tend to add fat when I'm doing this. Always the main problem that we're left with is not having enough volume in this upper part of the breast and not having enough cleavage. So fat grafting has helped us overcome that. But there's now another spot where we can place the fat, and it's really kind of cool. I want to show you this. This is her breast tissue, and here's her breast with the pedicle keeping the nipple and the areola alive. And then this is the pectoralis major muscle. You have heard me talking about this before when we talked about breast implants. But it's also turns out to be a very good spot to add fat. So normally we add fat in this subcutaneous, so into the fat below the skin. And I'm going to do that here as well, where we're going to add fat in this level. But also, I want to show you in this what's called a subpectoral place, in this spot, meaning it's below the pec. And you can see I already have my fat and underneath her muscle. You see my cannula tenting up her muscle. I've made a small little opening here just to gain access to the muscle. If I was putting a breast implant in under the muscle, this is the location it would be. But obviously we're not putting an implant in today. What I'm doing here is I'm adding in some fat. And so if you watch right here, I'm just going to inject a little bit of the fat here. And I'm principally aiming for this upper part, but you'll see this start to expand. And it's really nice because it doesn't take that much fat to get a nice little expansion here. And I'm not doing it through the lower part of her muscle. That's where we're going to have some breast tissue. But we're doing this here in the upper part. And I think you can see that starting to fill up? To me, this looks beautiful. And then we just kind of look and see what that shape looks like, and also sort of how much tension we have. We don't want to have too much tension here. So I've put in 20 cc's, and I'm going to probably put another 5 or so. Let's just see how things are shaping up. I'm coming here and I'm inflating a little bit there. Look at how that distends. It's really nice. And what this does is it kind of stacks up. And you can actually also put it in what's called intramuscularly. So when you do that, we can actually put it a little bit right in the muscle. And so we just go through, and I think now you can appreciate that I'm a little bit more superficial. So I'm actually in her muscle here, and I can see on the cannula here that I'm in her muscle, the pectoralis major muscle. And so then I'm just going to thread a little bit through here, and that will allow us to get a little bit more expansion. But you'd say, like, well, why would you put it in the muscle? Because the muscle's a really good home for fat, because it has really good blood supply. And so we're going to put look at that. Oh, that was really nice. And that will allow us just to get a little bit more depth and a little bit more fullness in her upper pole. In addition, now what I'm going to do, so look at that. That's really nice. So that's going to give us some of this fullness here. And you can actually, if I kind of run my finger, it really comes out right here. The pec muscle where I've injected, it comes right, sort of follows that line on the skin, but underneath. So that right away gives us some fullness. Now we're going to do the lift itself. I'm going to close all this, sew this up, and then I'm going to come back with the fat after I get this closed and put some fat up in this area. And then we'll have fat in those 3 layers. We'll have fat in underneath the skin, we'll have fat in the muscle, and we'll have fat underneath the muscle. And that kind of stacks and gives us a nice full cleavage and nice fullness to the upper pole. we're now 5 days after surgery of doing a breast lift and adding some fat to her breasts. I just wanted to show you what an early result looks like. And I was kind of teasing with her because we had a discussion about using implants before, and she wanted to be a little bit smaller. So I suggested that implants weren't a good idea for her because it was going to make her bigger, but she wanted some more roundness and fullness, and that's why we kind of settled on fat being a really good option for her. And so I was joking with her during her first follow-up that, oh, what size implants do you have? Because it really looks like she does have an implant, but there are no implants here, and this is just the fat. And it really just shows the power of the fat because we're able to get a really nice soft breast, and she's going to be a little bit firm now. This will soften even more. Remember these little lines? This was where I was grafting the fat, and so we're able to get some really nice roundness and some nice fullness and some nice development of the cleavage. If you really just look in this area here, she really has some pretty spectacular cleavage, which is really, part of it is from the lift, but a lot of it also is from the fat grafting that's here. And so that's the power of fat, is that she doesn't have to get a huge change in size by using the fat, because fat is a smaller amount that we use. So you can get a nice shape similar to an implant. It's not the same. And so remember, when I placed fat here, we placed the fat in 3 different positions. We placed it under her pectoralis major muscle, in the pectoralis major muscle, and above the pectoralis major muscle in the subcutaneous tissue. And I know some people get worried when they hear like, oh, I thought you weren't supposed to inject under the muscle. Well, that's under the muscle in the butt, and that's where it's dangerous when there are the big veins. But in the breast, we don't have that issue, and so it's safe, and we're using small volumes as well. This looks exactly like her own breast because it's just a beautiful, nice, natural slope. And I think by stacking the fat underneath, where we're putting fat underneath the muscle, in the muscle, and above the muscle, we kind of get that stacking of the fat, and we get that sort of compound result that gives you just a nice, full, pretty shape without looking overdone, and still looks very natural.